Greetings, my fellow Fright Fiends. It's your buddy Boogeyman Ben here for a new episode of Boogeyman Ben's Horror Zone. And today's video is the first in a series of 10 videos that I am going to be doing from now up until Halloween. What this series is going to contain is my top 100 horror films of all time. Each video will feature 10 titles, starting from number 100 and going all the way up to number 1. The last video of this series will post on Halloween night, Wednesday, October 31st. And I'm really excited to do this, and this has not been an easy undertaking. And what prompted this was a fellow subscriber of mine, somebody that doesn't do a lot of videos anymore, but is someone that's been supporting my channel for a long time. He goes by Cropsy2008. And the last interaction we had, he left a comment on one of my most recent videos and asked if I would do a breakdown of like all of my favorite films across all genres. And I wanted to make sure I fulfilled his request. But one thing I always wanted to do with this channel, because I've tried things in the past going outside of the horror genre, and I really want this to stay a horror specific page. So instead of doing 100 films across all genres, I thought I would do something that's even more difficult and name my top 100 horror films. Now again, all of these films have a story. I'm going to share a little bit of a story about my first introduction to these films, or first time I saw them in a movie theater, how I became a fan of whatever said film is. And again, these are my favorite films, so I hope people don't take offense if I happen to pick a film they hate or not call out a film that they love. And like I said, I will be doing one of these videos every week for the next 10 weeks. And I'm really excited to do this. This is a big undertaking, and I hope everyone will enjoy each segment of this top 100 horror film series. So, starting off, number 100 on my list of greatest horror films for me is going to go to 1991's Freddys Dead: The Final Nightmare. Now, this is my least favorite film in the Nightmare on Elm Street series, but this was a film that I went to see by myself opening weekend. I remember walking to the theater and getting my 3D glasses, and I was a senior in high school. And I was actually trying to become a film critic for my high school newspaper, and I wanted to write a review of this film, but I was competing with another guy that was there. They already had a film critic for the high school newspaper, so it was my first thing for school that I was going to be writing a review for. And I remember just having a blast with this film. Yes, it's become a weaker film over time, but seeing this in the theater and the 3D effects, and it being, supposedly the last time we would see Freddy Krueger on screen, it was such a fun experience. And I still remember writing my review for it, and unfortunately it didn't make the paper. It's always, like I said, it's not a perfect film. There are some things about it that are very corny. It doesn't really fit in with the other films in terms of continuity, but it was a blast to see Freddy go out the way he did, and I had a lot of fun with this film, and I will always enjoy it. And yeah, it's just a fun film, and some great experiences from my youth seeing it in the theater. Number 99 on my list is going to go to Scream 3. Still my least favorite film in the Scream series. I just had a problem with some of the tone in this film, but I still remember seeing this opening night with my girlfriend at the time. It was my senior year of college when this came out, and I had waited so long for a Scream 3. Had a blast. It was so great seeing this with a packed house. People were screaming and laughing and cheering, and it was a terrific time seeing this, because it was supposed to be the final Scream film. Not to say that there wasn't issues that I had with it even at the time. I thought the story wasn't as sharp as the first two films in the franchise, and I kept hoping that there would be a really great twist at the end that would kind of pull maybe a character that we had known from an earlier film, or I kept thinking maybe Randy would turn out to be the killer, but it didn't turn out that way. I was satisfied with the way this ended, and I thought it was a pretty good cap off to an awesome horror trilogy. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Still like to revisit it, just not my favorite of the series, but a fun film. Number 98 is going to go to Silver Bullet, an adaptation of Stephen King's Cycle of the Werewolf, and this was the first film I ever saw Corey Haim or Gary Busey in. And I thought both of them were fantastic in this film. I think this film is really chilling. I think it has a lot to do with the atmosphere and the music. by Jay Chataway, and director Daniel Attias did a great job in this film. And I just I love werewolf films. This is one of my favorite werewolf films, and I love the interaction between Gary Busey's Uncle Red and the late Corey Haim's Marty. I think their interaction really reminded me of the kind of relationship I had with my uncle, my mom's youngest brother, and so I really kind of related to that, where he was the fun uncle, even though he kind of had issues in his own life, but he was kind of the fun uncle that came around and did things with me and things like that. And so I really related to that relationship. And I also think that Everett McGill is fantastic in this. He's terrifying in this. And there's some terrific werewolf moments, and a lot of people think it looks funny in terms of the werewolf costume, but I always liked it. I think it works well, and I have a blast with this film. Still one of my favorites. Love this film. Number 97 on my list is going to go into Amityville 2, The Possession. And as you can see, I had this one signed by the amazing Diane Franklin, one of my first childhood crushes. I still think she's absolutely gorgeous. I had the honor of meeting her 3 years ago. This is still my favorite film out of any of the Amityville films that have been made. This one still is so effective and still is terrifying. And there's so many things that this film tackles. It tackles, you know, incestuous relationships, a demon possession, a haunted house. There's so many cool things in this film, and just the way that it's shot and the acting in it. I mean, you have an abusive household with a very tyrant father played by the amazing Burt Young. And it's just a really terrifying film. I don't know why this movie still gets me, and it's still one that I think evokes so much tension and fear. And I remember the first time this was showing on HBO, I remember the scene of the character of Sonny Montelli with his face all distorted in the commercial for it. And my mom wouldn't let me watch it, and I wanted to watch it so bad, and I didn't really get to see it until I was a little bit older, and I just completely fell in love with it. And it's always been my favorite film in the franchise, and I still think it's just an amazing, amazing, disturbing film. And Diane Franklin is fantastic in it as well. Number 96 on my list is going to go to Oculus, directed by the amazing Mike Flanagan, and he's on a roll right now, especially after doing Gerald's Game, which was a fantastic film. This is a film that I didn't expect anything from. I had no idea what it would be like. You know, Mirrors had come out at the time, which is a movie I enjoyed, but I thought it was going to be something in the vein of that. But there's just a lot more going on in this film than just a haunted mirror, and it's such a great look into a family's tragic downfall. You have some amazing actresses in it, like Katie Sackhoff and Karen Gillan. Cannot recommend this film enough. It's absolutely terrifying. Definitely give it a watch, and I guarantee that you will not regret it. Fantastic, slow-building horror film that really fucks with your mind. Just absolutely terrific. Number 95 on my list is going to go to Halloween Resurrection. I know a lot of people hate this film, but there's a very special bond between my grandmother and I and the Halloween franchise, and I actually took her to see this film opening weekend. This was just a lot of fun to go and watch this with her because she absolutely loves the Halloween franchise. Yes, there's problems with this film, and I addressed them last year when I did my countdown to Halloween, going over every Halloween film in the franchise, but there's still things that I love about it. Brad Lurie is fantastic as Michael Myers. It was nice seeing Jamie Lee Curtis come back, even though her swan song as Laurie Strode for this iteration of the Halloween franchise was a bit anticlimactic. I thought Rick Rosenthal's direction was really well done. But yeah, this film has got a lot of problems, but still, I don't think it's the worst film ever made, and I have a lot of fun with it, and I still enjoy watching it. Number 94 on my list is going to go to Sinister 2. I know this movie gets a lot of shit. People really don't like it, especially ones that praised and adored the first film. There are some problems with Sinister 2, and I addressed them in a review I did of the film when it first was released. But upon repeat viewings, I think it actually holds up pretty well. I don't think the characters are as strong as the first Sinister. I do like the deputy's character. I wish they would have said his name. I think that was like a frustrating point for me. Why didn't they just say what his name was? Because in the first film they called him Deputy So-and-so. That's what Ethan Hawke's character calls him, but like, what's his real name? It just sort of frustrated me that they never said his name in this. I don't know why. That was like a little pet peeve of mine. But I really thought the atmosphere in this was great. I thought the use of Bagul, not overusing him, but just sort of still having him there in the shadows, was really well done. I think the weak part on this was the fact that the kid characters, the ghosts of the kids, were sort of showcased too much. I think it worked really well in the first film that they were kind of hidden. They were really sort of shown very sparse in the first film. They weren't shown quite as much as they were here, and I think that was a strength of the first Sinister. But I still think the film is fun, and I do hope that the rumor that they're going to try to interconnect the Insidious franchise with the Sinister franchise, because I would love to see Bagul come back. And I still think the film is fun. And when I met Nick King, who played Bagul, he actually said he enjoyed filming this film a lot more than he did the first one. So yeah, the film's not perfect, but I really enjoy it. Number 93 on my list is going to go to Saw 4. This is my least favorite Saw film. I don't know why, though. It's like, there's just things about this film that just don't work for me. I don't know what it is, but some of the characters in this film I just didn't care for, and it just didn't flow as well for me as some of the other films did. I still really enjoy this film, but there's just, for some reason, it's just my least favorite of the franchise, but still a great film. My history of going to see all of the Saw films, specifically after Saw 2 with my brother-in-law, we had a blast seeing this one in the theater too, and it was just fun that was sort of like a tradition that we would go every year when a new Saw film came out. And for me, it was like the Friday the 13th franchise. Every year we'd get a new one when I was a little boy. And then, as I got older, we had the Saw franchise with a brand new one every year. And it was a lot of fun going to see these, but for some reason, Saw 4 just didn't grab me as the other ones did. Number 92 on my list is going to go to Graveyard Shift. I've always loved this film. I know it's hokey, but I have a lot of fun with this film. I just love the setting of it in the old mill. It just really feels like it's an old mill that's been around for so many years. I think Brad Dourif is fantastic in it as the exterminator. David Andrews is great as our main protagonist. I really think that Stephen Mache has a really strange accent in it. Just the way he talks, it's like it just doesn't seem like a natural main accent, but he's still a very imposing antagonist, and I just love like the look of the where they're at, and the fact that it's so grungy and dirty looking. And then you have the rat infestation, you have the rat bat that's sort of underneath the catacombs of this building, and it's taking people and eating them and things like that. I just really like it. It's a really good little monster movie that gets a lot of shit, but I think it's a lot of fun, and I've always enjoyed it. So yeah, I absolutely love Graveyard Shift. And number 91 on my list is going to go to Wes Craven's New Nightmare. I saw this film twice in the movie theater. I think it was very underappreciated when it came out because it was a different take on the Freddy Krueger character after we thought he was completely gone in Freddys Dead, The Final Nightmare. I like the idea that if there's this entity that has been kept contained in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, and he likes the Freddy Krueger character so much that he comes into our world once the story stops. So once they stop making the films, he's able to break into our own world and wreak havoc. And I just thought it was an interesting concept. And there's nothing wrong with the film at all. Some of the pacing I thought was it wasn't as smooth as it could have been, but at the end of the day, I really love the darker take on Freddy Krueger. I think Heather Langenkamp was fantastic playing herself, and sort of the fact that the story invoked her own nightmares into it, the fact that she had a stalker, things like that, and the fact that the Northridge quake had happened at the same time. So the fact that they were using earthquakes as sort of a way of foreshadowing that Freddy was coming into our world and that real earthquake happened. They have footage of that in the film. It really gives it a really authentic feel, and I think it has a lot of fantastic elements that still hold up really well. And of course, Wes Craven's direction and writing is always fantastic. So that is it, my fellow fiends. My first video in my top 100 horror films of all time. Again, I will be doing one of these every week, every Wednesday leading up to October 31st, Wednesday, October 31st, which will be the final one, and that will feature my top 10 horror films of all time. I hope everyone looks forward to that. I hope everyone enjoyed this first segment and looks forward to many others. Please leave me your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know if you guys are excited about this and if you like this idea. This is like my Halloween series that I'm going to be doing this year, because I did the countdown to Halloween last year with the Halloween franchise. I thought it'd be fun this year to go through and just name all of my favorite horror films of all time. So thanks so much again everyone for watching. If you like the content that I'm putting out and you want to support me on Patreon, I'll put a link down below. It's like, I look at it more as a donation thing. If you want to donate to what I'm doing here, if you don't feel like doing that, no problem at all, but the link is down below. And check me out on my social media links as well. I always appreciate it. And stay tuned for some great stuff coming real soon. Thanks so much again for watching. Take it easy, stay scared as always. Peace.